Hello and welcome to 81 All Out. This is your host, Siddhartha Vaidyanathan, and I would like to thank you for taking the time out to listen to this podcast. We are a crowd-funded endeavor, and you can support us at coffee.com. That's ko-fi.com/81 All Out to keep the show going.
In the air, Srishan takes it. India win.
He'll come back for the second. India have won the test match. India have won the series.
They're going to get back for two. India at home. Lords goes wild.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the 81 All Out podcast. This is a very special episode where we have a guest who is one of the legends of cricket. I was fortunate to follow quite a bit of his career, and now I'm glad that he's joining the podcast. So this is Amol Muzumdar, who is a legend in domestic cricket. He played for Mumbai for many years and held the record for the highest aggregate score in the Ranji Trophy at a certain point of time. And there is probably among the list of best cricketers never to play international cricket. And I don't mean that in a negative way at all. I mean that in a very positive way. And had it been in any other era, Amol, I'm sure, would have represented India for a long time. But now, of course, he's giving back to the game in a wonderful way. He's a very insightful commentator. And I love his commentary in domestic cricket, and he's also a batting coach for Rajasthan Royals. So, welcome, Amol. Thank you so much for joining this podcast.
It's my pleasure. I've been giving a lot of, been throwing a lot of light on all the podcasts around. So I would like to be very candid on yours because I read your tweets and they are very candid about it. So I would like to be. Just replicate those things. But I love your tweets, by the way. I love your tweets. You're very insightful about it.
Thank you so much, Amol. I mean, for someone like you who has played the game, to say that means a lot. And as he said, he has been on a few podcasts recently, and he was also, he spoke to Ashwin on his YouTube channel. I think this sometime last year, and they were all very interesting. And Amol has spoken quite a bit about his career in many of those chats, and I will link many of them in this podcast show notes, and you must watch that. So, but here I was interested in getting Amol's perspective on batting itself, both batting in his playing days as well as how batting is evolving in this time, especially in the T20 era, with his close association with IPL. So, Amol, let's begin by talking about your career post playing your playing days. What made you were you always sure that you would be continuing in cricket? You seem to be someone who is obsessed with the game, if I may use that word. And did you always know that it would be something related to cricket, or was there something else on your mind as well that you could do other things?
Well, if I put my mind to it, I can do other things in life. There's no doubt about it. But since I was 12 years old, or probably 11, cricket was always on my mind, and it continued to be so, even post-retirement. I didn't have any doubt in my mind that the very fact that I wanted to give something back to the game, either it's with my commentary or my coaching, or just helping some youngsters out, or sharing my acquired knowledge over the years, playing this great game. Just wanted to give it back, and you never know what happens. With me, there is a possibility of me completely changing certain things. So I don't discard that out, but at the moment, cricket is on my mind.
Yeah. So, how did you, get yourself to prepare for these, roles? I know that you have always been big on preparation, whether it's batting or any cricket. So, I'm sure you. Can you tell us a bit about how you went about preparing yourself for coaching, for instance? Did you go through all the certifications, and or did
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, preparation has always been a big thing for me. Um, Not so much planning, but preparation. I don't plan out certain things, but I prepare constantly. My mind is preparing, and reading is something which was big with me, even when during my playing days. So I read a lot. I watch a lot of stuff that goes around in the world regarding the game. What are the innovations that are happening around? I like to be. I am interested in that, so I like to watch and learn certain things. That's been in my DNA. But to be honest, I mean, England, playing in England, Siddharth, has really been a blessing in disguise for me. I learned a lot playing club cricket in England as an overseas professional. It changed my life. It changed my perspective, and it has been a smooth sailing ever since I started playing professional cricket in England. And the reason why I say it is that during my playing days, I happened to do all the coaching badges in England. My level one was in Yorkshire, my level two was in Lancashire. So I completed my badges even when I was playing in England. And, at times I was compelled to do that. Playing the sport in England, I was compelled to do it, but it has been a blessing in disguise, I would say. But even after that, even after playing 20 years of first class cricket, I went through a lot of courses in India. I went through my level one, my level twos. I completed at NCA Bangalore, and then I went to Brisbane and did my level three on my own. I mean, it wasn't. It was just out of curiosity. I went for level three. I applied for it, and I did it from Australian Cricket Board. I went to Brisbane and completed my course. It was a 12 months, an extensive course, which I completed probably about 4 years back. In 2016, I did my level three, and ever since, I've been in training the kids.
Yeah, it reminds me of a story I once did actually about all you guys going and playing club cricket in England. I think you and Lakshman were used to go quite regularly, Wasim Jafar as well. And you told me
Yeah.
about how it also helped you, fend for yourself, stand on your own feet, learn to live by yourself. And during the week, you used to do this coaching. During the weekend, you used to play. Kind of a seems like a different age, doesn't it? I don't know how many cricketers these days go and have those experiences. Indian cricketers.
Well, I mean, it was a mind-boggling experience. You had to do certain things on your own. You couldn't afford to lose out on any kind of the time management. What we learned over there was unbelievable. The professionalism, they expected you to score runs, so you better get runs. I mean, form or no form, all those excuses were not were not accepted, especially in Yorkshire. I mean, they would let you know. Whether you were Lakshman or whether you were Muzumdar, they would let you know. If you didn't get runs on a Saturday, on a particular Saturday for them in an important game, they would definitely let you know. But they loved it. They loved if you were professional enough, and if you the social side of it also. I learned quite a bit going to England. So there were a lot of positives playing the sport in the country, like England, and thoroughly enjoyed the experience. Probably how many years? 17, 18 years I played in England, and then 6 years I followed it up in Holland. So yeah, when I retired, the glass was full.
Wow. So the way you're talking about Yorkshire and them letting you know that that you weren't scoring runs seems very similar to Mumbai. You would have been used to it.
Yeah, I mean, Mumbai was a different ball game, boss. Mumbai, let me tell you, Mumbai was a different ball game. You were not in. If you were not India material, you better make way for somebody else. That was an unwritten rule. So yeah, I mean, in Mumbai, there were some hard-nosed cricketers. I mean, I was fortunate enough to play with them. I grew up in a different era. I just it was a completely different era where I grew up. I mean, you don't perform, you were sidelined. You
Yeah.
you perform and you survive. There was no way out. At least we were not taught, or we were not given that impression of having anything else to fall back on. We were just told, get 100, and perform means get 100 or a double 100. Get a double 100 and you stay in the team, or you make way for somebody else.
You not only survived, which you put it very humbly, but you thrived and you won Ranji Trophy after Ranji Trophy after Ranji Trophy. You won, like, I'm sure there were opponents who got fed up with you guys going on, coming and winning Ranji Trophies. So that's how well you did. And you captained the side too, again to a Ranji Trophy. So yeah, you did a lot.
I mean, I tried to do my best. There was a now when I look back at it, there was a complete change in my personality once I stepped on the ground, or once I crossed that rope. When I look back at it now, what I am off the field and what I was on the field, there were two different personalities. I don't know how it happened, but there was a switch where it just took. I just took on the opposition. That was no matter what the contest was, there was an element in my mind or in my heart where I had to take on, and it just switched on automatically. There was no somebody pushing me to switch it on. It was just the contest that got me going. And I just love contest. So I think the competitiveness in Mumbai cricket, just the vibe and the air that flows in Mumbai cricket, in the local cricket, I mean, just got the juices flowing to just get it done, boss. You got to perform, and not just survive over there. You couldn't just survive. You had to excel to survive. You couldn't just perform and survive. I mean, I know instances where I'll give you an instance. There was Jatin Paranspe who got 100 in the Ranji Trophy finals. He got 100 in the Irani Trophy the following year. Say, for example, we won the Ranji Trophy against Delhi in April. The following year, the curtain raiser Irani Trophy in October, he got 100, a magnificent 100. First game of Ranji Trophy, all the Sachin was available, Vinod was available, Sanjay came back, and I was there. Jatin had to sit out the first Ranji Trophy,
Wow.
and wow, I mean there was no complaint from any side. I mean it was happening right in front of me. So I'm just giving an example what kind of competitive spirit that flowed in the dressing room.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been some miss. But, I guess having grown up in that kind of an environment, nobody is surprised by it. They know, it's understood that these things happen. Like even two magnificent hundreds may not be enough, right, for
Yeah.
the next game. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you just had to have that. I don't know. There was something else. There was talent oozing out. I mean, if you looked on your left, there was Tendulkar, there was Shastri, there was on the right, there was Kamli, there was Salil Ankola. Who do you fall back at? They were hard-nosed cricketers. They don't care. They didn't. There was no shoulder to talk, or weep or even express yourself. They were hard nosed, probably, what do you say, education about cricket. There were no sympathy seekers.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, by the way, Mahesh, who is also on this call, he follows domestic cricket and has followed domestic cricket for a while, and he's a fan of Tamil Nadu. So I'm sure, Mahesh, you got sick of watching these guys beat Tamil Nadu quite often.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Mahesh.
I'm so envious of this sort of thing. I lived in Bombay for 3 years, between 2010 to 13. And that was a time where I also got to watch a lot of their games live at the ground. I mean, I watched them at Wankhede, I watched them at BKC. I mean, BKC is such a small ground, and I watched a game where Railways was on top. Like Rahane comes and blasts a 70, and then he gets out. Murali Karthik runs through with a few wickets. Then Rohit Sharma comes and blasts a quick 40, and they win the game. It's like, you put them in any situation. It's not like Mumbai doesn't get into tough situations. It's not like they were a champion side who were rolling opponents out. They had their moments of challenges, but it's just that somehow somebody races through. And, not necessarily the big names, some of the small names as well, right?
True. I mean, see, I don't know how to put it, but you've put it very smoothly, that somebody put their hand up, and felt accountable. There was always it's an unknown pressure in the dressing room, unknown. And when I look back at it after so many years, I didn't realize it then because I was just doing my job. But now when I look back at it, there is an unknown pressure in the Mumbai dressing room that you cannot afford to lose to anybody in the country. Of course, there will be some moments when you lose the game. Of course, there will be some moments where you're caught in a tough situation. You cannot sail through every time, but you got to wriggle yourself out of it. You fight it out, and you survive there, and stay in that rally. In tennis, sometimes you just have to put the ball back in play, so that the opponent has to hit another shot to get a winner. If he gets a winner, that's fine. But you made him play another shot. You have not given up on that extreme shot that he hit previously. So just one more shot, you make that opponent play. That could give you a chance, a semblance of chance, but still there is a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was covering watching quite a bit of Mumbai cricket, the two guys who constantly come to my mind, of course, who used to bail you out of trouble are Sairaj Bartule and Ramesh Pawar. And every single time Mumbai was in any kind of batting trouble, they would have a partnership, and the game would again be back in Mumbai's side.
Yeah, there was a season where Ramesh was brilliant. I think it was 2002. That was one of my worst seasons in domestic cricket, and we were constantly in trouble. The middle order was not performing, and Ramesh bailed us out quite a bit, and Sairaj also.
Yeah.
So there were some talented players around at that time.
Absolutely. Okay, so coming to your batting, there was one thing interesting that I found in these interviews, and which I had not known before, but then it struck me that I should have probably known that you didn't wear a helmet until 1994. And that even after that in your career, in fact, many of the photos that I see of you batting, I rarely see you with a helmet. It's all either with a cap or with a, topi. Yeah. So I find that very interesting, because is that, when you learned the game in the formative stages, that means that you didn't wear a helmet at all, right?
Yeah, I didn't wear a helmet till 1994, till I played West Indies. I just didn't know how. I played Kanga League. I faced some very good bowlers, and Kanga League, as it's a very very tricky tournament where there were wet wickets, and the ball used to stop. A top quality side, no matter how many test players you have, could get out for 70, and there could be an outright result in a day. The wickets were that bad. And I started my career, as everyone does, in a Maidan club. I started for a club called MB Union, which was at Cross Maidan. So it was a complete Maidan cricket where I played. But I somehow didn't feel comfortable wearing a helmet. I was just not able to, because of, now that I've put on weight after retirement. But at that time, I had a little bit of a small face, and So the helmets didn't fit me, and I just wasn't comfortable. And after I tried to wear it, but then I gave up on it. And I said, you know what? I mean, it's only a ball, and I just have to move. It's what, about 3 inches. I just have to move out of the way. If there is a bouncer, I just have to move out of the way 3 inches. I mean, if I can't do that, then what's the point? Um, but then I was smart in using my helmet. Now, when I look back at it, always hindsight is always brilliant, isn't it? When I look back at it, I said, how did I do that? Why did I do that? When I sit with my family, and sometimes my daughter just, eggs me to give her a story of yesteryears. When I say, I didn't wear a helmet, and she said, "What? How did you do that?" So it wasn't stupid at that time. It was just a normal thing, and I wasn't being. Sometimes opposition felt that I was being arrogant, but I honestly, being true to cricket, the game, I wasn't being arrogant. I was just trying to be as comfortable as possible while batting, and that was my goal. And they felt that, and I was bounced off quite a bit, later on.
So obviously that has a role to play in the way your technique develops as well, right? And
Yes.
how do you see the difference then with? I mean, kids today obviously will not. I mean, most of them will all wear the helmet, and how do you see that changing both defensive as well as attacking technique in terms of the shots people play in the hook and the pull and the cut and things?
See, I feel the innovation of helmet has been a game changer as far as technique is. And every now and again, every decade, or probably after 2 decades, you'll find a game changer. In today's day and age, the game changer is DRS.
Mm-hmm.
It's a game changer completely. You bat differently nowadays. You're compelled to bat differently because of the DRS. It wasn't the case earlier. It has changed the complete perception of batting. Helmet was a game changer. And if you notice, in the last 5 or 6 years that I have watched cricket, international, all and domestic, there are so many guys who get hit on their heads.
Yeah.
I mean, what's going on? What is going on? I mean, are you not watching the ball? Are you, or sometimes you've just taken your eyes off it. And it can alter your technique. Wearing the helmet and having the protection, you feel as if you won't be. Probably you feel that you won't be touched. But it's a moving object that is coming towards you. And if you take your eyes off it, then you're being hit. If you see the amount of players or batsmen getting hit in the last 5-6 years, that they're far more than earlier times.
Yeah, there's a related point to that. One is the helmet itself, and the other impact that we've seen in the last few years is the quality of bats. And the modern bat, we just, like the other day, I think Rohit Sharma basically mishit a drive off broad, and that went over mid-on. I thought that's going straight to mid-on, but that went well over mid-on. That's how good the bats are. So you have this very liberating bats, and you have this very liberating helmet. And that gives you a sense of comfort and security, which is disproportional to what the risk is out there, both in terms of risk to your batting as well as risk to your physical body.
True.
And
yeah.
So in that sense, I mean, one is a helmet, and also the front press, which a lot of cricketers have talked about. So this could have been a perfect storm, like even 5 years earlier. What is your assessment of why we are seeing this perfect storm in the last 5 years? Is it also to do with a lot of unconventional batsmen coming through the ranks?
True, it is changing. It's a modern day game, and it's changing. Changing by the minute. As I said, DRS is a game changer. You will realize that people have started batting differently in the last couple of years. They don't prefer to get in line with the ball as much as what they used to. Similarly, there are different shots that are employed now. A modern day cricketer, I mean, I deal with them day in day out, and if I try to explain it to them, try and get in line with the ball and then drive smoothly. Common line that I hear nowadays is that this is the way I bat. But earlier times, there was a certain way you had to bat. It has changed. The narrative has changed to this is how I bat. So you have to mold them correctly. The younger generation, modern day cricketer, he is not going to take no for an answer. He is going to try out different things. You just have to facilitate and try and make them understand that what is good for them. And that's what I try to employ when I'm coaching the youngsters, that try and find out a way. Fair enough, your technique won't be an ideal one for some ex-cricketers, but it is important for you to be successful. If you can be successful 8 out of 10 times with that technique, I don't mind it. But if you're going to drop down your consistency to 4 or 3 out of 10, you're going to be successful with that technique, you better change it, or you better listen to what I'm saying. There are ways to convince the younger generation, but you're right that with modern day game changing towards power hitting and certain different shots, 360-degree player, the different terminology that has been used. I think the game is changing. The only hitch that I don't have any problems with that. I just do not have any problems with that. The only hitch that I feel about the modern day cricketer and a modern day game is that we are losing out on artistry. And I've said this several times, even on air. I've said this, that artistry, we are artists. In India, if you see, you go in history of Indian cricket, you will see artists as batsmen. Somebody like Gunapa Vishwanath, somebody like Muhammad Azharuddin, VVS Lakshman, Rahul Dravid. There was artistry. Tendulkar, there was artistry. Gavaskar, there was artistry. There was there's no lift the bat this way. There's no hard and fast rule that. So you should not lose out on artistry. And at the moment, what is happening is that if you can mold this cricketer in a certain way or provide them certain things, they will lose out on the artistry. And that's my only hitch. And as far as possible, I try to avoid that. Till I'm coaching, till I'm on the ground, I will make sure that artist in every player remains as it is.
That's a beautiful point. And what I want to understand then is that, with the TV, with television being so prevalent now, there are obviously young cricketers watching several batsmen on air from different countries having different techniques, idiosyncratic techniques. If you take Smith or Labuschagne in Australia, you can take Fawad Alam in Pakistan, you can take, several different techniques.
Chandrapal.
Chandrapal, various. And even George Bailey, who you had a teammate called Bhavin Thakkar who used to stand that way, who used to face the slips when he was standing. So when you look at a young player like that, how do you assess how much of that is just imitation from TV and how much of that is natural? And how do you approach such a young player? Is my question. Yeah.
What happens is that if that player is successful as a youngster, having that technique and being successful, the success ratio is something which I look at. As I said earlier, 8 out of 10 times you give me a performance with that technique, I won't say a word. But if it happens 3 or 4 times out of 10, then I have a problem. Only then I have a problem. I would try and convince you. If that is fair enough for you, that's fine. This is where I'm getting to, is that sometimes you have to you need to know a formula of success. Sooner you find it, the better it is. And that's exactly where batsmanship is. You need to find a formula of success. What technique works for you, what doesn't. the is your game a power game, or is it just pure timing? If it if or it's a mixture of both. If you see Hardik Pandya today, it's a mixture of both. There is some bat flow and there is some power hitting as well. So he's mixed it correctly. But you need to identify what is your success formula. The sooner you identify it, the better it is for a youngster. My only problem with different techniques is, after being successful for a while, you don't change certain things because somebody else is doing it. You don't try and imitate something, or you don't try to get information or watch it on television and start changing certain things because somebody else is successful. It may not work for you. So this is where a coach comes into play, or a mentor comes into play. And there was a classic example of Gautam Gambhir. Gautam tried to change his technique with an open stance. I mean, fair enough, but he was successful for a major part of his career with a certain amount of a process behind it. Why change it? Why change? And this is where cricket is very interesting game. It's a very interesting game. The shelf life of a good cricketer is 7 or 8 years. Yeah, a very good cricketer for 10 years. An extremely good cricketer, an excellent cricketer, would be for 15 years. That's about it. So you have to find, and he's vulnerable because the span of his success is very, very short. He is very vulnerable. And as a player, I realize it when I'm coaching now. I put myself in the player's shoes, and I know for a fact that he is vulnerable to any advice, because it's so uncertain, this game. It is so uncertain that you see more failures than success. And that is why he's vulnerable to any advice. And that's why when I just keep telling all the coaches also, when you give an advice, be sure of what advice you're giving, because that advice is going to stay with him or make or break him in his career. So be careful when you're giving him advice.
So, Amol, how has that changed, let's say, when you started out, and the kind of coaching you got and the kind of interventions you got from your coach? And was it as liberal as it is now? And like retrospectively, would you look back and say, I wish I had this kind of approach when I was growing up, which could have been more expansive, right? Now you're going by success and you're keeping things open-ended. And when you see a problem, you go and address it. And I mean, we've seen that even at international level, even at test level, we've seen those kind of interventions. So if you can give us some perspective on how it used to be versus how it is.
It's a very interesting question, very intriguing question, actually. I've been thinking about it. I think a lot about batting, about modern day cricketer and yesteryear cricketer, because I had the privilege of working or playing with when the game was changing. In the 90s, I had the privilege of batting with somebody like Sanjay, Sachin, Vinod. Then I had the privilege, or Ravi for that matter. And then I had the my colleagues, Jatin, Sairaj. I batted with Wasim, Vinod. So I batted with them. And then the future of Mumbai cricket, that was Rohit Sharma, Ajinkya Rahane, and then falling on. So I saw 3 generations of cricketers, and I keep thinking about it. There are 2 very distinct things that come to my mind immediately when I think about it. The first one was when we were growing up. There were some coaches and some unbelievable coaches present in Mumbai. And that's why I feel, somebody says, oh, you were an unlucky cricketer. To hell with it. I mean, I don't think I was an unlucky cricketer. I was extremely lucky till cricketer. I feel I was an extremely lucky cricketer because I worked with some unbelievable coaches. Um, and the narrative that they had at that time is that the coach provided it was like a guru mantra. He was like a guru. He gave me the guru mantra to be successful, and I followed it blindfolded. Now the narrative has changed to being a player's coach, sort of a player centric approach has to be followed, which is followed in all the countries. And I have done my level 3 in Australia. I know for a fact that they have got this narrative about being player centric. So the player drives the entire thing. It's more towards the player. If certain thing works for him, that's fine. If it doesn't, but in 80s when we were growing up, in 70s and 80s, it was the guru who gave us the guru mantra, and we followed it. We had no um, probably we didn't dare to ask Achrekar sir why. God, good luck to you. Good luck if you ask him. But that was, that's why I feel he was way ahead of his peers, or way ahead of his generation. Achrekar sir. We were very lucky to have him as our guru. But it has changed over the period of time. If I can answer your question correctly, it has changed from a coach's perspective to a player's perspective, coach centric to player centric, and it has happened only because of these. We tend to blindly follow sometimes Australian way of cricket, English way of cricket. There would be some South African way of cricket. And I keep stressing on, we need to find our own way of cricket. We are not just capable, we are way ahead of them. The sooner we realize it, the better it is for Indian cricket. That we in India are more than capable of rewriting the laws of the game and rewriting the fashion in which we want to play. We cannot be following the Australian way of. That is for them to decide. That is for them to have in their own country. English way could be different in their country. So it has changed over the years from coach centric to player centric.
Yeah, but what one thing that strikes me here though is that it's very interesting. You're talking about the Guru Mantra that you grew up with, but and now how it's become player centric, and so you would imagine actually that there is far more artistry now, because it is all up to the player, and you would imagine that the earlier generation was a little more homogenized, with the coach basically saying this is how you bat, but the reverse actually is true, because the artistry is now slowly, you're saying, is not being as developed as before.
Yes. I mean, it was, there were very few tips that the coach gave at that time. Very few, but they were like gems. You gathered them and you held on to it, like your life depended on it. So there were some gems from Achrekar sir, and various other coaches, Vasu sir. There was several other coaches who gave those. You had to gather. Knowledge is supreme, isn't it? They had knowledge about the game, and but I think it wasn't player centric then. It is player centric now. Also, for a fact that it has gone from artistry towards power rating now. That is the reason I'm saying, you'll find more players hitting the ball harder and out of the ground more than what we saw when I was growing up.
Yeah, so that brings us to the next question actually, about how this is probably an era when more players are hitting balls harder and further than in any other era before. But is there any aspect of the technique that is taking away from them? Because obviously they are practicing hitting regularly. They want to, get the hitting perfect. But is there some other aspects that are they are losing because of that?
I don't know. I mean, we'll have to go in the stats, and I haven't gone in the stats, so I can't comment on this. But one thing which I would like to really get into deeper is that the amount of sixes that were hit now and amount of sixes hit in the 90s and 80s, are they similar, or the proportion of hitting sixes? Of course, take IPL out of account. Just in international cricket, I would like to know the stats. I don't know the stats, so I can't comment on it. But I still feel, when Viv Richards lifted the ball up in the air, more often than not, it hit the stands.
Mm-hmm.
There were several other cricketers who did that. It's not that. Maybe the consistency was more then. Now probably you will see a lot of players getting out in that fashion, but they still try to. If they see the ball, they hit the ball. That's one thing which I've realized, and they're not scared of getting out. They are just not scared of getting out. And sometimes when I look at a game and we reflect in the game of the game, even in IPL, I come back in the dressing room and I ask the player, did you see the fielder? I said, he would say, a classic answer is, no, sir, I didn't see the fielder. I said, what do you mean? I mean, there was long off there, right there. How can you not see the fielder? So then I've also realized that these guys have stopped looking at the fielders. Maybe I was looking at the fielders. These guys have stopped looking at the fielder. This is a ball length पे था. मैंने मारने की कोशिश की. नहीं हो गया. The execution में थोड़ा सा गड़बड़ हो गया. But there are, you need to find a balance between consistency and hitting it out of the ground. Again, the barometer, I mean, the measuring thing for me is you need to be consistent. If 8 out of 10 times, again, if you can hit it out of the ground, fair enough, I will not say anything. Be consistent.
No, in fact, we noticed this even in the last test in Chennai, where Rishabh Pant hit leash for 4 or 5 sixes, and almost all of them over the fielder. So, and even Shardul Thakur, for instance, hit 1 6 in Australia. That was right over long on. And Rohit Sharma has a tendency to do that as well. And so the question that we always have is that how much of it is that I don't care, I've got the strength, I've got the power, I've got the hitting technique, and I've got this great bat. And instead of trying to tweak my shot to find the gap, I would rather go with the best percentage shot and back myself to clear the fielder. Is it that? Or is it, like you mentioned, I didn't even see the fielder. I found the length and I went for it.
Yeah. It's a mixture of all of that. Is that they just don't watch the fielder. They've been taught that way, or they have been made to believe that way. That also for a fact, very interestingly, you said earlier in the conversation that the bats have made the difference. Now, if you start using the bat, and even if a half shot is going to travel beyond the fielder, how would you possibly see the fielder? You're not going to see the fielder. You're going to, for a fact that 80% of the time, that you're confident to hit it over the fielder. Whether you do it or not, that's another story. But at least you get the feeling that, with this bat, with this downswing, with this technique, and with this practice that I've done, I would be able to post that ball over the fielder. So, yeah, everything has played a part. The psyche has changed about batting. The power hitting has come into the game, and also the bats have made the difference. Nowadays, with the white ball, Kookaburra ball, it does travel far and up. way too much, I feel, and the grounds have become smaller.
As a coach, how do you, I mean, in general, let's say a guy makes 70, 80, 8 out of 10 times he's success. That's easy for you to define. He's got success, I'll let him carry on. But when you see someone consistently getting out, trying to clear the boundary, of course, he's like even an 80% success of hitting sixes is not good enough, because getting out 20% of the times trying to clear the boundary is not a good percentage game. As a coach, when you know so many things are stacked against the wisdom of not going for the shot when there is a fielder placed, plus this batsman centered approach to coaching where the batsman feels like this is the way I bat. Part of it is your judgment on this is the time for me to intervene. Part of it is the psychology about how am I going to get this message across to a cricketer who believes this is my way. So, can you just take us through on how would you approach a situation where you see someone repeating the same mistake, and you've decided as a coach this is the time for me to intervene, but how do you
It
approach it?
also depends. Yeah, it also depends on how the psyche of that player is. If he is he going to absorb what you're going to say, or is he going to just brush it off? There are different players, different psyche, different approach to the game, different temperament. So so I try to see what kind of a player he is. Um, I know for a fact that one mold doesn't fit all. So you have to, give that message subtly. That's your, that's actually my way of approaching things. That certain guys love dressing room conversation. Certain guys love a conversation in the hotel. In front of videos. You show them videos. You explain a lot of things to them, and then they get the message. Certain players, you can give a message only on a cricket ground. So while they're batting, or just before they're going to bat, I would just subtly say that why don't we try, the percentage shots now today, or say, for example, if somebody is getting out, I would rather approach him and say that, let's focus on ball selection. Today, the entire 40 minutes, what you're going to bat, let's just focus on ball selection. You feel that it is a correct ball to hit, choose a correct ball to hit. So it's a subtle message, where I know for a fact that I'm not being direct to him that boss ye mat karna, yeah, this is not the way to do it. There are different methods, different ways to approach a particular player. Somebody like David Miller, he enjoyed a conversation while batting. I didn't shy away. I mean, while batting, I could stand at just outside the nets at point, or just at, say, for example, silly point, um, or at the non-strikers end when he was batting in pairs. Just have a small little conversation. How's it going? So there are subtle ways. There are different ways to approach different players. One mold doesn't fit all.
It's very interesting. So, talking about fine tuning your game for a certain format, I'd like to know how, when you as a coach for a T20 team are obviously trying to fine tune certain things for the players for that format, but once the player plays that and is then going into another format, say the longer form of the game, first class cricket, test cricket, how much does that have a knock-on effect on defensive techniques or the way you leave the ball, things like that, which are probably not second nature to you in a T20 game? I mean, you're probably not even thinking of leaving the ball unless it's a wide or something in a T20.
Yeah, I personally feel it's a bubble that has been created by some, that white ball cricket and red ball cricket are different, and this and that. The packaging is different. Ultimately, it is batting. Yeah, ultimately it is ball striking. Whether whether you strike, the Sandeep Patil hit 6 boundaries in an over in 1985. You understand? It's just a packaging. But he also did that in one day cricket. Of course, there was no white ball cricket, but he batted that in that fashion. So, it's just the bubble that has been created. Oh, white ball batting and red ball batting. And it has put a lot of questions. A lot of cricketers, even in domestic cricket. Sir, we are approaching Vijay Hazare. How do I approach? Cut it. Batting is just simple. Keep this principle of batting is very, very simple, Siddharth. Is that ball, if you strike the ball has to go in the gap. Either it's a on the ground gap or aerial gap. You need to decide what you want to do. It's very simple. More you confuse yourself, more confused you will get in batting. You got to simplify things. And I try to simplify it by saying that it's just ball striking. What's the gap? Hit the gap. Once you tap the bat, once you take a stance and you tap the bat, you need to figure it out where I can hit the gaps on the ground. Certain players can see the gap aerial, certain players can see the gaps on the ground. All you have to do is push the ball in the gap. You'll score runs. As simple as that. Don't try to confuse yourself, white ball and red ball. Of course, there are certain tweaks that are needed. Tweaks. But the bubble has been created that there are two different styles of play. It's not. It's just by batting is batting. The ball is same. The color has changed. Bat is the same. So why change something between your ears?
But my question was more with the the approach, because often in first class cricket and Test cricket, the surviving for longer maximizes your chances of success. Like Pujara showed in Australia or something like that. But of course, in T20, survival is not really a priority.
Yeah.
You want to get the most runs. So that is my question in terms of those two approaches.
You play the situation always. I keep saying this to all the batsmen. You play the situation. One ball, 4 runs to get. You can't be leaving the ball or you can't defend the ball. You play the situation. If the situation demands you to play in certain fashion, you need to mold yourself in a way that you are all format player. Nowadays, the demand is such that you need to mold yourself to play all formats of the game. And batting is just keep it pure simple. You will find a lot of greats. Somebody like AB de Villiers, he bats similar. Of course, in Test match cricket, there will be some tweaks. You just have to leave the moving ball. The ball tends to move a little bit. You just have to leave certain deliveries outside off stump. But that's about it. I mean, if the ball's pitched on a half volley is offered, you hit the gap through covers on the off stump. So as simple as that. But the thing is, sometimes we try to really complicate things. And in cricket, in batting especially, you need to simplify. Keep simplifying. It's like mathematics. Simplify it. Come to the rock bottom where you will find the answer.
That's a great point, and I totally agree with your point about batting being batting for a lot of the batsmen, especially when you're talking about batsmen who naturally take to multi-formats. Like, Rohit Sharma or a Virat Kohli, to a great extent, know how to adapt. And you can very clearly see the tweaks that you mentioned, right? It's amazing how they make those tweaks. Like Rohit bat speed as an opener is very different from him as a middle order batsman. So they're pretty good at making those tweaks, and they have the mental sort of strength. I'm particularly curious about batsmen who are not natural T20 batsmen. But if you take KL Rahul and Mayank, for instance, particularly Mayank, the kind of IPL that he had last year, I don't think many people expected him to play the way he did. And that came about from specific tweaks to his stance, to his backlift, and therefore the elevation that he was able to get. And to some extent, that kind of carried on into his test technique when he went to Australia. I don't want to read too much into it because he played, Mitchell Stark at his absolute best when the ball was jacking around quite a lot. I don't want to read too much into it. But given the samples we saw, it was reasonably obvious to say that there was a carryover impact of it. And like if you like, I know you've spent a little bit of time with South African test team, for instance. If you were to do both, be the T20 coaching staff and sort of move to the test team coaching staff, how would you handle a person like Mayank?
I would just say again, here's a classic example of modern day things about white ball batting and red ball batting. He just has to go back 3 years. Just rewind your mind 3 years. Was I successful in white ball cricket? Yes, I was. Was I successful in red ball cricket? Yes, I was. Why change? You see Mayank Agarwal, when he scored those 2,500 runs in domestic cricket, didn't he get runs in white ball cricket in Vijay Hazare or Syed Mushtaq Ali? He got runs. He did get runs in IPL. It's not the case that only this year he got runs in IPL. He also got runs previously as well. He was pretty successful about it. So why change something? Batting is so very it's on a thin sort of thread, and if you change something now, it will get complicated. So all the time you need to be very careful about what changes are you doing to your batting technique. Sachin Tendulkar survived for 23 years without changing a lot of things. Virat Kohli, if you see, who is the most successful player in modern day cricket? Virat Kohli. Yeah, in all three formats, you will say Virat Kohli is the epitome. Yeah, has he changed anything in Test match cricket, white ball cricket, T20 cricket, 50-over format? No, his batting is same. So if the guy best is not changing anything, why are we changing certain things? If it's good for him, it's obviously good down the layer as well. So my advice I'm nobody to give advice to Mayank Agarwal. He can figure it out. But my only suggestion, now that we have come up with a topic, suggestion would be go back to your things, what you did good 3 years back. You scored 2,500 runs. And somebody would say, oh, it was in domestic cricket. Come and play 1 year of domestic cricket, brother, and you'll understand what you're talking about. Come 1 year. You travel from east of India to southern tip of India. 1 domestic year. आके खेलने बोलो उनको, जो भी बोलते हैं. 1 साल. I'll give them 1 year. So don't underestimate the runs that you've been scored in domestic cricket. If you're successful scoring those many runs, 2,500 runs in all formats of the game, why change certain things? They've got a double 100 in Test cricket with that technique. What's wrong with you? Didn't he get a double 100? I'm sure
Yeah,
he got a double 100.
Yeah, he got a double 100 against South Africa.
Amol, you should know. You were on
You would have been in the other dressing room.
Got it. Yeah. He got a double 100.
Yeah.
I was in the other changing room. That's why I can't remember it.
Of course. But this is but one point I definitely want to bring in is that, which you brought on commentary as well, is the batting against spin. And you were a fantastic batsman against spin. You played with batsmen who were great against spin. You saw how it was, but you have expressed a few concerns about, while you have seen, not at the test level, not at the highest level, but what you're seeing at the lower levels, you have expressed some concern about how batsmen approach spin and also the quality of spinners generally going around at the lower levels. Can you just expand on that point?
I've made this point several times on air, and I've had several discussions. Some have turned into arguments off air, but I don't shy away from stating it. And I'm convinced in my mind that we need to do something about it in India. One thing is that you see the pace battery now. Yeah, you see the pace battery. What we have is best in the world. Bumrah, Mohammad Shami, Umesh Yadav, Bhuvneshwar Kumar. You see Navdeep Saini,
Ishant.
guys,
Yeah.
Ishant, Sharma, guys coming in, churning in. There are several others in the wings. Why? There is a reason to it. The reason being, about 8-9 years back, there was a specific um attention given to the quality of pitches that were played in domestic cricket. They were not flat. They kept grass on it. That encouraged teams or captains or coaches to get in fast bowlers. You provide the facility and it will be done. So the attention was given towards pitches being fast, and you got the crop of fast bowlers 5, 6, 7 years down the line. Now we are reaping the rewards of that attention that was given at that time in pitches in domestic cricket. Similarly, I want to make this point today on this podcast that add one more day to Ranji Trophy. Ranji Trophy is played 4 days. What is 4 day format? Who on earth has come up with this new thing of 4 day cricket? What is 4 day cricket? There are three formats in the game. It's Test match, which is played over 5 days, 1 day cricket, 50 over format, and 2020. Who on earth has brought up this format of 4 day cricket? I cannot understand it. Add one more
Talk of
day.
4 day tests, Amol, and now you're saying what is 4 day
rubbish. Whoever, even some of the experts have said, oh, 4 day. Rubbish. Total rubbish. Where will you get a Ben Stokes innings at Headingley? 5th day, yeah? Pujara fighting it out in Australia. 5th day. For God's sake, don't change it. We have got, we live in a fantasy world all the time. Some of us. We live in a fantasy world. Oh, 4 day format, 4 day format. Test match. Don't change it. Have you ever seen Grand Slam being changed? Have you ever seen golf being changed? Do you see football pitches being changed? No. What is wrong with you guys? It's all rubbish, I feel.
But I think
For me,
you're
it is
saying it
rubbish.
from the spin perspective, right? Also.
Yes. I'm coming back to that point. Add 5th day to Ranji Trophy. You will start getting spinners 5 years down the line because captains and the coaches will be compelled to play one more spinner in the ranks. Today, a spinner in a domestic team is he's turned as if he's like a spectator. He comes in only to fill in overs. He doesn't have a special role to play. So a spinner comes, he rolls his arm over, he keeps certain things quiet, and then again it goes back to the fast bowlers who do the job and get going. You give spinner a particular role. Maybe it won't happen in first year, second year. It will show the results in the 5th and the 6th year down the line. Add one more day to 4 day cricket of Ranji Trophy format, which I feel is rubbish. Add one more day and you'll reap the rewards after 5 years down the line. And it will have a knock-on effect on how to play spin on the 5th day.
So you're saying that batsmen today are having a problem of not playing enough quality spin because
True.
the spinners don't have say in games. Yeah.
True. It is an honest truth. If you look at domestic cricket, which I cover, religiously, I cover it, and I know for a fact that it is an honest truth that spinners will be on a decline because they're not given a role, and neither the batsmen face quality spinners. How do you expect them to go and perform when they have not played that kind of spin? I mean, every team I don't want to go back when I was playing, but just to put things into perspective, every team had a quality spinner in them. You name it: Hyderabad, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, for that matter. Bihar, Delhi, every single team I know had quality spinners. Why? Because there were roles to play.
Yeah, and in terms of technique itself, that too has definitely changed, right? And DRS, of course, you mentioned is a game changer, which has had a huge effect of how batsmen play spin. When you were playing, I'm sure there were many who were comfortable with pad play and who are very good with pad play as well. But these days, Pujara accepted. You don't, you can't, in fact, afford to pad away balls outside off stump and things like that. So, talk a bit about the evolution of the technique as well.
I mean, this was happening towards the fag end of my career, and I found it really difficult to adjust to the demands. I was given out once in Guwahati. I was playing in Guwahati for Assam, and I stepped out, and I stepped out, and I knocked the ball off. We were saving the game, and I was trying. I just padded the ball, and he gave me out, and I was shocked. It wouldn't have happened about 15 years back. It wouldn't have happened. But I was given out. I got really irritated. I was really agitated on the umpire, and which I generally didn't. But that's an statement. I came back in the dressing room, but when I saw the actual decision, it was a fantastic decision. And that time I realized that the game is changing. You cannot just pad off. I don't know. It was the brilliance of that umpire. I don't know who the umpire was now. But was it the brilliance of that umpire, or it was just sheer that he was watching, watching a lot of television, international cricket. International cricket में out दे रहा है तो तुमको भी out दे. So that, but game changed, and I realized it. So from the following year onwards, I tried to practice my front foot. I had this habit of getting close to the ball, or our coaches used to tell us, try and get your foot besides the line of the ball, and a lot of times it hit the bat pad together, stuff like that. But the following year, which was towards the end of my career, last couple of years, when I played for Andhra, actually, I tried to get my front foot to be inside the line of the ball, which was very difficult for me to adjust, because 18, 19 years I had played in a certain fashion, and suddenly there was a demand of me putting the foot, I couldn't adjust to it. But I tried my best in the last couple of years. I tried my best to get my foot out inside the line of the ball. I didn't want to get in with the line of the ball. And it has been a game changer. Definitely, it has been a game changer. The DRS, if you put your pad, you're bound to get out. So, what do? Padding. I remember a series, India West Indies series, where Jimmy Adams was named as Jimmy Paddams.
Paddams. Yeah.
Because he used his pad. It was a technique. With DRS, I think it's a complete game changer. I think the bowlers have got a say finally in it. A lot of rules and regulations are towards the batsman. Of course, it's a batsman's game, and it has to be a batsman's game because we just get one life. But with DRS, I think bowlers have got a breathing space.
So, Siddhi mentioned Pujara in that example. In fact, Pujara is a classic case study for a lot of us because we are fascinated by the way he plays spin. So, two things I wanted to understand from you. One, as a great player of spin yourself, how do you look at Pujara? How do you assess his technique? That's beyond the DRS and the pad play part of it. The other one, why is he one of the rare ones, if not the only one, who doesn't seem to have noticed that DRS has changed the technique around, and he still goes on batting as if it does not change or it doesn't matter to him? How much of that is explained by the fact that he's so comfortable going down the track to even defend that a big component of the risk is taken away by the fact that he's taking the ball so far down the wicket?
So Pujara had to change his technique. it's not that Pujara hasn't changed his technique. Pujara had to change his technique because he has taken DRS out of equation because of that rule of 5 meter or whatever, the the ball tracker. It cannot measure beyond a certain point. So, something turning into him, he won't be able to do that against a left arm spinner. But against an off spinner, quality off spinner, you can always go and use your pad because, he's going down the track and negating that rule. So he had to change it. He had to think differently to counter that. But also, I feel he's a guy who uses his bat quite often. If you see, it's always he tends to get behind the ball and he plays with the bat. He's not a guy who would get outside the line of the ball. He gets within the line of the ball. So I think he also, I'm sure he must have thought about ways of countering the DRS rule. There's no way that you cannot think about it. You have to think and find a way, find a method to be successful. And I think Pujara is an interesting case. I quite like his approach towards playing Nathan Lyon when he goes down the track and he just pads it up because he gets what he wants basically, and he negates the DRS system in that. I'm sure the Australians also would be working on something to get DRS even more innovative to counter that. But I'm glad that he has found a way to step out and go down the track and negate the DRS completely.
I'm surprised you say that. You must have watched a lot of Pujara even at domestic level. I assume that that's the way he batted even without DRS, that he used to come down the wicket quite a lot. Like the test in Bombay in 2012 against Panesar and Swan, he did that. Of course, it was still a DRS era, although it didn't apply in that test match. Even in his first test when he played against Australia, he used to do that. So I thought it was a natural part of his batting.
Well, he stepped out quite often, but at least in domestic cricket, when I saw him first, he batted. I mean, he played with the bat quite often. He had so much time and so much. The bat flow was really good. But over a period of time, I think he has become a lot more defensive. Maybe the situation has been in a certain fashion that he has he's curbed his instincts. But earlier, if you see his innings earlier, there were some shots off the back foot through covers as well. But now, sometimes, teams evolve and they try to find a way to negate the Pujara effect as well. But one thing is for sure, his appetite for runs and his hunger for staying at the crease hasn't decreased one bit.
Just unbelievable, right?
Jesus. Come on. I mean, come on, give us a breathing space, man. I mean, he comes from a land where they have produced Kotak as well.
I know. That must have been some experience. I've heard stories about them.
Oh my!
Tell me your favorite story about Kotak. It's like detour, but it's worth it.
Kotak was Fevicol, right? Nicknamed Fevicol.
Yeah. One day we were fed up. We went back to the dressing room and I was annoyed. In the dressing room, I could be, very brutal sometimes. What nonsense is this? I cannot dismiss this guy and this and that. I mean, we could joke around. We could, muck around in the dressing room. So Ashok Mankad, our coach, Kaka came up with an idea of, Amol, एक काम करेंगे, इसको leg side pack करेंगे, leg side, उसका pack कर दे leg side, और catching लगा देना, 2-3 catching लगा दे इधर, out हो जाएगा. And as players, as I said, we were vulnerable to advices.
Guru Mantra.
I spent the entire day packing the leg side And out of the 90 runs that he got, out of 700 balls or 600 balls, he must have got 75 runs on the leg side only, through the gaps from the. So by the end of the day, I touched Kaka's feet and I said, boss, don't give anything now. Let it go. जब out होगा वो out होगा देखा जाएगा. It was unbelievable.
Oh my God.
There were three fielders and he was hitting through the three fielders with quarter of the bat, quarter side of the bat, from this side.
Wow.
And then Kaka came up in the evening and said, amazing player है रे साला शक करके खेलता है यार उधर शक करके खेलता है. I said, we realize it, Kaka. Thank you.
I think that's the most Kotak of Kotak stories.
Yeah, I mean, people who complain about Pujara batting slowly, it should be
Yeah,
like
but Pujara bats with the full face of the bat. Kotak used to bat with the quarter
face.
Of the quarter face. And still he used to cut the ball like that. If the ball was coming from here, he used to cut it like that. He used to slice through the
Slice it.
knife going through the butter.
Everything.
Knife going through a butter. You don't cut the knife like that. It just goes like this. I say, uska shak.
TT player. TT.
Yeah, TT. He got runs, boss. He got runs.
Oh, yeah.
He's got stories, more importantly for us.
So we've spoken about Pujara. I mean, the other...
So, sorry, one more thing on Pujara. I just wanted to expand on that. I know he's negated this by coming down the wicket. Why is it so easy for him? Like, it seems like a risky proposition when somebody else comes down the wicket. Is that because people predominantly come down the wicket to attack, whereas he comes down to both attack and defend? Gautam Gambhir was someone similar, right? He used to come down quite a lot even to defend. Is that the primary difference?
Ravi as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ravi did that, yeah.
Yeah.
Is the intent to attack or defend the primary difference why he makes it look so comfortable, or he's just got a better sort of vision and he backs himself, he's got more confidence to play the spin? How do you sort of explain it?
See, again, coming down the track is again artistry involved. Whether to, I don't think in padding up the ball there is any artistry, but when you come down the track and drive it through covers, there is artistry involved. I love the fact that the spinner gives a little bit of air and somebody coming down the track and hitting the ball through the gap. So I think the artistry part is there, and with Pujara, I think nowadays people come down the track to only hit it over the ground, over and above the infield and probably post it for a six. The very few would come down the track and hit it all along the ground, an on drive or a cover drive or an off drive. Very few do that. They step out only to hit sixes. Probably they are molded that way. But there is another way to play spin, is also to step out as soon as you see the ball going above your eye level. That's a challenge thrown at you, and you need to accept that challenge and get down the track and hit it all along the ground. That's also one way of playing spin or negating spin. So that artistry part has gone down, as I said earlier. So they come down the track only to hit sixes. Pujara is a different case. He also comes down the track to negate spin, trying to find a way out of DRS.
So I think we've covered quite a lot and we've taken quite a bit of your time. Mahesh, any last thoughts that you have?
I just wanted to touch upon your time with the South African team. Wanted to understand how someone, for whom playing spin is such a natural aspect of your batting, and even in domestic cricket, you've seen a lot of great players of spin, and you take batsmen from South Africa, and you're on a very short assignment. It's 3 test series.
Yeah,
there is so much to work on, but you can't work on all the things. You'll have to find things that are low hanging fruits. So where would you start? How would you assess the scope? And let's say, what are the couple of things that you thought would be useful for batsmen from South Africa?
It was a tough assignment. Firstly, India in India is a different, it's a well-known fact that it's a difficult proposition. The South African team was quite young, and possibly I just didn't have time to work on things. But in spite of that, I had to make sort of a sort of a relationship with all the players so that they trust. The trust factor is an important factor as far as a player and a coach is concerned. So there was hardly little time, but I made sure that I had the trust factor on my side. Certain changes in technique wasn't possible because I was just drafted in after the T20 T20, I think, which happened in Bangalore. And so there was only about 6 days in between. Also, we had a practice game. Tried to make an impact on their minds. Or the only thing I could do was, strategically tell them, certain things where they could, they could adjust to the demands of playing in India against India. That's all you could do. Certain aspects where you could work were with the players who were not playing in the 11, because it was back-to-back test matches. There was not a single break in it, back-to-back test matches. So you could not alter too much. But I'm glad that even now, all of them are in touch, all of them. And there were certain guys, in fact, Faf sent me a message yesterday, a lovely message. Aiden Markram sent a message after 100. So I know for a fact that, I had a cordial relation with everyone. Rassie van der Dusen, I worked pretty hard with him. Although he was not playing he was not in the test squad, but, he was left over after the T20 team went back to South Africa. He was left over, and I made it a point that I worked hard on him. So there were certain things. There was a lot of dialogue that was that I was involved with the players, and tried to pass on whatever knowledge I had. And I was glad that that is one of the things that I'll always remember. People say that I didn't play Test cricket for India, but I had a taste of Test cricket on that day when the Visakhapatnam Test match began. Although it was in different colors, but still I felt proud about it.
Yeah, I mean that must have been some moment, right? Like you're there. I mean, you're not there, but you've been around there.
Yeah. I called my wife. Generally, I don't call her in the morning, but I called her up in the morning and I said that nobody can complain now that I don't taste Test match cricket. I'm off to the first Test match at Visakhapatnam. It was quite a moment, but I enjoyed it. थोड़े देर से आया पर आया जरूर.
And first of the many more to come, right? At least in the new avatar, it'll be a long innings.
Sorry?
At least in the new avatar, it'll be a long innings. I mean,
as a coach, you may get more.
You never know. You never say never in cricket. Also, also just to add to that point about South African players, in the Test series, everyone had sort of from a batsman's point of view, I feel everyone improved their record in India. Somebody like Dean Elgar had not got 100. Till then, in India, he got 100. Quinton hadn't got 100. Quinny got 100. Faf The highest score was 37 before that. I was pretty surprised in India, and he ended up getting 350s. Aiden, of course, he was injured later on, but yeah, I was pretty in that short span of time. I tried to do a lot of things, and
Yeah,
I'm
and
glad.
Aiden and Temba did well in Pakistan. I'm sure you would have been happy to watch them bat there.
Aiden sent a lovely message the other day, and even Rassi, you know, they're pretty open to suggestions,
Okay.
and they made me feel really welcome, and I felt really happy working with all of them because they were pretty open to suggestions.
All right. So, yeah, I think that covers a lot of good ground. We would obviously love to have you back. I would love to talk to you actually more about, domestic cricket and your experience with Mumbai and things. I was hoping to, focus on maybe maybe 1 or 2 seasons and get a little more deep into that, because I know that you have a wonderful memory, and that if I say 2003, some game, I'm sure you'll tell me the whole history of that game on the scorecard. So I want to.
Don't go by Rohan Gavaskar's words. Rohan keeps on saying, Amol has got a elephant's memory, which is not true. Just because he doesn't remember anything, it doesn't mean that I've got a memory like an elephant.
No, you. I mean, the few times I've spoken to you, I know that you have a very good memory. So I'd love to, focus on specific moments, because I think there's a lot to learn from the domestic career, your domestic career, and few others as well. But yeah, thanks for this, Amol. This was very enlightening, and we hardly get to hear too much about such insights about batting on air in international cricket. But from you on domestic cricket, and here we've been really glad to get that.
I hope they elevate me to international, at least in this.
Yes, they should. I think they should. I mean,
it's only a matter of time. We have Sanjay Banga, we have Vikram Rathore, so you could be next in line. I'm glad that this Indian sort of coaching tradition is continuing, and it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, they can do both elevations. They can elevate you either as in the coaching to international, or even commentary to international. That will be great as well.
Well, the choice is theirs, no?
but about personal advice, I think commentary will probably pay you more, but there's no winning the commentary fandom. Nobody is going to praise any commentator. So if you want to,
sorry,
I'm saying usually commentators are not praised these days. They're only cursed.
Yeah.
Like no matter how good a commentator is, I mean, even I'm part of the club, but we're always complaining about something or the other. But as a coach, I think you'll probably end up with a much better reputation. And so,
there's always a generational change, no? Everywhere.
Of course, and you are performing like you are always performing. You're performing, so hopefully it is rewarded.
Yep. Personally, for us, this is also a big bragging moment because we had Abhinav Mukund earlier in the podcast. So this is the second member of the 10K club. So if we can get Wasim Jafar in,
yeah, we should get Wasim Jafar next, and then that'll be a perfect trio. Okay, Amol, lovely chatting, and I'll let you know when this is up.
Right, okay.
All the best for IPL. That brings us to the end of another episode of the 81 All Out podcast. If you enjoy the work we do, please support us via coffee.com. That's ko-fi.com/81 All Out. You can find the link in the show notes, and it will allow you to either set up a recurring monthly payment or throw in a one-time contribution. Also, please subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever else you prefer. It would be great if you could leave a rating and a review so that more people can find us. As always, we would love to hear your thoughts on the work we do. So please send us your feedback.